My name's Elizabeth. I'm turning 67 this year. Right now, I'm looking back on a photo from 12 years ago with a lot of emotion. It shows my husband and me, alongside our eldest son James and his wife Jessica, as well as our eldest daughter and her husband. All of us smiling together in front of the small restaurant James had just opened. Back then, James was 30, and his bride Jessica was a fresh 23, both newly married and eager to run the restaurant together. Little did we know that 11 years later, James would leave us, passing away and leaving his family behind. And just recently, I got told off by James's wife, Jessica, saying,
"We're practically strangers now, aren't we? I don't have the means to support a freeloader. I absolutely refuse to do caregiving, and you an unrelated old lady, so get out."
Who could ever imagine, looking at this peaceful photo, that such a thing could happen? It all started 9 years ago. After losing my husband, I didn't want to be a burden to my kids. So I began to look into selling my parents' home and moving into an assisted living facility. But then, a certain incident led me to live with James and his family. The incident involved Jessica leaving their 2-year-old son, Liam, alone, and he nearly fell off the balcony of their 5th-floor apartment. Fortunately, someone outside noticed Liam trying to climb over the balcony railing, rang the apartment bell, but with no response. They had to forcibly open the door after calling the fire department, and luckily a tragedy was averted. Jessica claimed she was just out to the convenience store for a moment. However, upon speaking with James, it turned out Jessica often went out at night, and when James returned home from work late at night, he would frequently find Liam crying all alone. James, once a celebrated chef in a top-rated restaurant, found his true calling with the support of his wife, Jessica. She was his biggest cheerleader, confidently telling him,
"James, with your culinary talent, you're more than ready to make a name for yourself. I'll be right by your side to help out."
Inspired by her encouragement, they pulled together the necessary funds, and at the age of 30, coinciding with their marriage, they launched their own restaurant. However, the reality of running a restaurant soon hit Jessica. Just a week into their new venture, she expressed her discomfort.
"My feet are throbbing. I had no idea it would be this hard."
And she stopped helping his husband. James, confronted with the financial impossibility of hiring additional staff, implored her to reconsider.
"We're not in a position to afford extra help yet. I need your help."
He managed to persuade her to return several times, but her complaints persisted. She lamented over difficult patrons, uncomfortable stares, and her struggles with memorizing the new menu, dragging her feet through her hosting responsibilities. On the days Jessica chose not to help him, me and my eldest daughter would fill in, ensuring the restaurant maintained its welcoming atmosphere for our guests. A year later, with the arrival of their child, Jessica shifted her focus entirely to motherhood, compelling us to hire outside help. Given their tight budget, he could only afford part-time assistance, leaving James to shoulder the brunt of the workload. His days began at dawn with food prep and ended well past midnight with cleaning, a testament to his dedication and hard work. Amidst this grueling schedule, a terrifying incident where their child nearly had an accident took a toll on James, leaving him visibly shaken and exhausted. In his moment of vulnerability, he reached out to me, his voice heavy with concern.
"Mom, would you consider moving in with us? It would mean the world to us if you could help look after the child."
Despite my initial hesitation, primarily due to my complex relationship with Jessica, I agreed, recognizing the need to support my son and grandson during this challenging time. Upon my arrival at their new, spacious home, laden with my belongings, Jessica's reaction was less than welcoming. She muttered under her breath,
"Just when we finally move into a bigger place, it comes with the added baggage of an old lady."
Her words stung, but they weren't entirely unexpected. Her attitude reminded me of her disposition when she married James, subtly expressing her resignation.
He is the eldest son, after all. Guess there's no escaping it.
Indicating a sense of obligation rather than choice. In the face of Jessica's cool reception, I forced a smile, extending an olive branch with a hopeful, "I'm looking forward to getting to know you better, Jessica, and making this house a home for all of us." Her response was terse and dismissive, barely acknowledging my gesture as she pointed towards a small room next to the entryway.
That's your space. The guest room.
Before she turned on her heel, vanishing up the staircase, left in the wake of her departure, I felt a mix of emotions swirling within me. Hope for a new beginning, tinged with the apprehension of the unknown. As I started unpacking, the serenity of the moment was shattered by the unmistakable sound of my grandson Liam's cries piercing through the stillness of the house. He was calling out for his mother, his voice laden with the innocence and urgency of childhood.
Mommy, Mommy.
Without a second thought, I rushed to his side, lifting him into my arms. I ascended the staircase, Liam in tow, announcing to an absent Jessica, "Jessica, Liam's awake and needs you." The silence that greeted us was a stark reminder of the chasm that lay between us, a gap widened by misunderstandings and unspoken grievances. Liam, growing increasingly agitated in his quest for his mother's attention, wriggled free from my grasp.
Mommy.
His calls echoed as he navigated the staircase with a mix of bravery and toddler clumsiness. My heart raced with worry for his safety, and I followed closely behind, ready to catch him should he falter. Upon reaching the upstairs hallway, Liam's mission was clear. He headed straight for Jessica's bedroom, a beacon of hope for his young heart. He tried to climb onto the bed where Jessica lay, her presence in the room marked by the soft rhythm of her breathing, a stark contrast to the turmoil that had unfolded downstairs. I softly approached, nudging Jessica awake with a gentle, "Jessica, please wake up. Liam's looking for you, and he's very upset." Her reaction was swift and sharp, a mixture of grogginess and irritation flashing across her face as she snapped at me.
What are you doing here? Don't just barge into my room.
Her outburst sent Liam into a frenzy of tears, his small body shaking with sobs that filled the room with a palpable sense of distress. Instead of soothing her son, Jessica's frustration only mounted. She fixed us with a glare that seemed to blame me for the disruption, her words cutting through the tense air.
This is your fault. Can't you keep him quiet? Take him away.
Before she dismissively turned her back to us, seeking refuge under the covers, I stood there, flabbergasted by Jessica's brusque demeanor and her apparent lack of concern for Liam's distress. It broke my heart to see him so upset, but I knew I had to step up for his sake. With a bit of effort, I managed to soothe his tears with some kid-friendly snacks I had brought along, hoping they would serve as a peace offering in our new living situation. As I watched Liam's face light up with a smile, chasing after the ball in the vast expanse of our backyard, a sense of fulfillment washed over me. This was what family life should be about. Moments of pure joy and togetherness, even amidst the challenges that our new living arrangement brought. The sun hung high, casting a warm glow over the scene, and for a moment, all the tension and awkwardness that had marked our interactions with Jessica seemed to melt away. Liam's laughter echoed through the air, a reminder of the innocence and happiness that children bring into our lives, and a stark contrast to the complex web of adult relationships and responsibilities that we were navigating. The adjustment period living with Jessica, however, stretched longer and proved more complicated than any of us had anticipated. Her laissez-faire attitude towards household chores and meal preparation was more than just a minor inconvenience. It was a reflection of deeper issues that needed addressing. James, ever the professional, found solace in his work, pouring his heart and soul into his restaurant, leaving little energy for domestic disputes or mealtime battles. This left Jessica with the autonomy to dictate the family's dietary habits, which, unfortunately, leaned heavily on convenience over nutrition. The kitchen, which should have been the heart of the home, was neglected, with microwavable meals and takeouts becoming the norm. The irony was not lost on me. A family connected to the culinary world through James's profession, yet so disconnected from the joys and benefits of home-cooked meals. Determined not to let Liam's diet suffer under these circumstances, I rolled up my sleeves and took to the kitchen with a mission. Armed with fresh ingredients and a dose of grandmotherly love, I began preparing meals that were both nutritious and delicious. Seeing Liam's enthusiastic response to the dishes I prepared was rewarding in itself. His shouts of
Yummy, yummy
filled the kitchen, a testament to the power of good food made with care. However, Jessica's reaction was less than warm. Her cold reception to my efforts and her accusations of passive aggression hurt, but they also shed light on her insecurities and perhaps a sense of inadequacy when it came to domestic life. It became clear that her marriage to James and her encouragement for him to open his own restaurant were not motivated by a shared passion for his craft, but rather by a desire to boast to her friends about being married to a restaurant owner. Jessica's approach to household chores could generously be described as laissez-faire. Initially, she had a semblance of a schedule, cleaning the house once a week and doing laundry every 3 days. However, when I began to shoulder these tasks daily, her participation evaporated without a trace, and not once did she utter a word of gratitude. Her days unfolded in a predictable pattern. Either cocooned in her personal haven upstairs, meticulously applying makeup for hours, or stepping out to meet friends, leaving family duties in her wake. In this tableau, Liam, her young son, became a mere footnote, virtually ignored, a stark emblem of neglect. My frustration reached its zenith one evening as Liam's soft breathing signaled his journey to dreamland. I confronted Jessica, my voice tinged with disappointment.
Jessica, isn't it about time you took some responsibility for Liam? How do you justify your role as a mother?
Her comeback was as audacious as it was dismissive.
If you weren't around, I'd have handled it. Isn't one of us enough for these chores?
Her nonchalance baffled me, leaving me to wonder at the logic that governed her thoughts. Meanwhile, my eldest son's business endeavors were flourishing, thankfully devoid of financial woes. Yet, his unwavering commitment to his craft bordered on the obsessive, his reluctance to delegate tasks a testament to his perfectionism. This meant that his days were a relentless cycle of work, his pursuit of culinary excellence consuming every waking moment. Even on supposed days off, he was buried in research and experimentation, his passion for culinary innovation leaving little room for rest.
The culinary world waits for no one.
He'd argue whenever I suggested he take a break, his dedication unyielding. His restaurant soon became a beacon of innovation, earning accolades and features in prestigious magazines and on culinary shows. By the time Liam was gearing up for elementary school, the restaurant had not only cemented its place in the local food scene but had also become a staple in the broader culinary community. However, this relentless pursuit came at a cost. My son's health began to wane under the heavy mantle of his ambitions. Jessica, blissfully unaware or perhaps indifferent to these sacrifices, reveled in the restaurant's success.
Didn't I tell you? Opening that restaurant was the right call.
She would boast, her words a mix of pride and ignorance. To me, my daughter, and anyone else within earshot, her initial promises of support had faded into oblivion. Her absence during the restaurant's tumultuous early days now a sore point. After nearly a decade of sharing a home, in the year that marked Liam's 10th birthday, tragedy struck our family when my eldest son, James, succumbed to heart failure. This heartbreaking event unfolded on an ordinary morning, much like any other, in the dimly lit kitchen of the family-run restaurant where James had been diligently preparing for the day ahead, all by himself. Without warning, he collapsed, alone and silent, on the cold tile floor. By the time the morning shift employees walked in, ready to start their day, it was tragically too late. Despite their swift action and the hospital's best efforts, nothing could be done to bring James back to us. The news of James's sudden passing sent shockwaves through our family. My daughter and I, upon hearing the devastating news, rushed to the hospital, tears streaming down our faces, disbelief clouding our minds. We found solace in each other's embrace, clinging desperately to James's lifeless body, as if our touch could somehow will him back to life. However, amidst this turmoil, Jessica, James's wife, was conspicuously absent. Despite numerous attempts to reach her, our calls went unanswered. She remained unreachable, adding a layer of frustration and helplessness to our already overwhelming grief. As the night drew in and the hospital corridors grew silent, the stark reality of our loss began to settle. James's body was gently moved from the hospital room to the morgue, a solemn reminder of the finality of death. It was then, in the quiet of the night, as Liam and I returned to the now empty and echoing home, that Jessica finally reached out. Her voice, when she finally called, lacked the anguish and despair one might expect in such a moment. Instead, there was a certain lethargy in her tone, a disconcerting nonchalance as she lamented,
"Oh, what am I supposed to do now? Why does this have to happen to me?"
Her words, devoid of sorrow, felt like a slap in the face, a stark contrast to the deep well of sadness and loss that had engulfed our family. Anger bubbled up inside me, a fierce and protective rage for my son and the injustice of his untimely departure. I couldn't hold back my words, which flowed from a place of deep pain and disbelief.
Jessica, how could you say that? How can you be so indifferent at a time like this? Your husband, my son, is gone. How can you not feel the weight of this loss?
If only you had been more present, more involved. Maybe things could have been different. My voice broke with the weight of unspoken what-ifs and regrets, a mother's grief mingling with anger at the unfairness of it all. Her retort was a slap in the face, a dismissal of shared responsibility.
Is it my fault? You're the reason things ended up like this because you didn't raise him to be stronger.
Her words struck a nerve, leaving me speechless, my heart a battleground of conflicting emotions. In the aftermath of our exchange, as I struggled to compose myself, Liam's tender tap on my back and his small voice apologizing broke through the numbness.
Grandma, I'm sorry.
The confusion about why he felt the need to apologize was quickly overshadowed by the realization of his innocence in the face of our family tragedy. I reassured him, my voice steady yet filled with sorrow. "It's not your fault, Liam. You've done nothing wrong." He confessed to a failure that was not his to bear.
I couldn't make the porridge right.
Liam led me to the kitchen, where a pot of porridge sat, a testament to his attempt to find normalcy in the chaos that had enveloped our lives. The porridge, intended to replicate a dish I made during times of illness or comfort, symbolized Liam's desire to care for me, to step into the role his father had left vacant.
I couldn't make it as well as Dad.
Liam admitted, his voice small but filled with a desire to make things right, to offer comfort in the only way he knew how. Embracing him, I tasted the porridge, its texture not quite right, but its flavor filled with the love and effort of a child trying to mend a broken world. With a smile, I reassured him,
It's truly delicious.
Liam's gentle smile, filled with a mixture of relief and sadness, echoed softly as he clung to me, his tears a silent testament to the bond we shared. This moment transported me back in time, to the days when my eldest son, James, was a child. Those were simpler times, when my kitchen was filled with the sounds of laughter and the aroma of home-cooked meals. I remembered how James would wrap his little arms around me, much like Liam did now, seeking comfort in my embrace. This recollection brought tears to my eyes, blending with the bittersweet memories of the past. Despite the heartache of losing my son, the warmth of Liam's skin against mine and our shared grief served as a soothing balm, offering a semblance of solace amidst the storm of emotions. In the wake of my son's funeral, a new chapter unfolded for the three of us. Liam, perhaps sensing the need to fill the void left by his father, began to assert his independence. He started taking on responsibilities around the house, his small hands eager to help with whatever task was at hand, especially in the kitchen. It was a sight that warmed my heart, witnessing his growth and resilience. James's restaurant, a place once filled with his passion and dreams, found a new steward in his apprentice. The establishment, along with my son's culinary legacy, was sold for a substantial amount, ensuring that his flavors and name would endure. Thanks to James's foresight in securing life and educational insurance, combined with my modest pension, we found ourselves in a stable financial position, at least for the time being. However, Jessica's response to our altered circumstances seemed unchanged. She oscillated between seclusion and social outings, showing little to no inclination towards securing employment. I couldn't suppress my concern for our future stability, and on occasion, I would gently suggest that she consider job hunting. Each time, my words seemed to only deepen her annoyance, and she would swiftly exit the room, leaving an uncomfortable silence in her wake. Time marched on, and before we knew it, Liam celebrated his 11th birthday. With a newfound confidence, he declared his intention to prepare dinner for Jessica and me. That evening, he presented us with a meal that was a testament to his growing skills and independence. Jessica, taken aback by his initiative, couldn't help but praise him, a rare smile crossing her face. Liam's joy was palpable, and I swelled with pride at the compassionate and capable young man he was becoming. Yet, this display of domestic proficiency unexpectedly shifted Jessica's perspective. It seemed to plant a seed of thought in her mind, one that viewed Liam's contributions as a replacement for my presence. This notion came to a head a few days later when Jessica, with an uncharacteristic seriousness, questioned my continued stay in the house.
How long do you plan on staying here?
Her inquiry, blunt and devoid of warmth, suggested that, in her eyes, the familial ties that bound us had dissolved with James's passing. Shocked, I replied, "What do you mean?" She coldly stated,
James is gone, and we're practically strangers now. To be honest, I've been holding back, but I don't see any reason for you to stay.
Amid the whirlwind of emotions and responsibilities that came with raising my grandson Liam, a deeply buried wound from the past unexpectedly resurfaced, causing me fresh pain. It was a harsh accusation hurled at me by Jessica during one of the most challenging times our family had ever faced, the loss of my beloved son James. She had coldly blamed me, suggesting that it was my failure in raising James that led to our unspeakable loss, saying,
You're the reason things ended up like this because you didn't raise him to be stronger.
The cruelty in her words cut through me, reopening a wound I thought had begun to heal. Jessica's bitterness didn't stop with just one accusation. She went on to express her view of me as nothing more than a burden on their finances, stating,
We don't have the luxury to support a deadweight.
I tried to reason with her, reminding her of my financial contributions to the household. I've been putting all my pension into our household expenses. However, my attempt at justification was met with disdain. Her face twisted with irritation. She dismissed my contributions as insufficient, coldly retorting,
That's nowhere near enough. We're heading towards needing care for you, and let's be honest, that's just not feasible.
Despite her clear unwillingness to see reason, my concern for Liam's future and well-being propelled me to try to bridge the gap between us. I hoped to appeal to her sense of family and shared history, gently reminding her, "Jessica, I've dedicated the last 9 years to this family, pouring my heart and soul into making this house a home, believing you'd recognize that effort and the love I've given unconditionally." But my words seemed only to ignite her fury further. Her face transformed, rage contorting her features as she erupted.
Don't you understand? I want you to get out. You're using my son as an excuse to cling to this place, but it's clear you're not wanted here.
Her outburst was a painful reminder of the fragile thread that our relationship hung by, exacerbated by grief and misunderstanding. Over the last 9 years, a complex tapestry of emotions has been woven within the depths of my heart, each strand a testament to the trials and tribulations I've endured. As I stood there, facing her, it was as if a dam had burst inside me, letting loose a flood of pent-up frustrations and realizations. The truth hit me like a lightning bolt. Attempting to communicate with her was akin to speaking to a wall, utterly pointless. Despite the surge of anger threatening to overflow, I managed to reply with a measured,
"I've got it."
Yet, deep down, a storm was brewing, a tempest of resolve and defiance, eager to prove her wrong. She, completely oblivious to the volcanic emotions erupting within me, snorted in disdain.
Good, as long as you understand.
Her words slicing through the air with icy detachment. She then delivered her ultimatum with chilling aloofness.
Get out by next month.
To my utter disbelief, she nonchalantly picked up my son's memorial plaque and threw it at me with a callousness that froze my blood.
Take this with you.
I was rooted to the spot, a mixture of shock and outrage paralyzing me as she turned on her heel and left, her departure marking the moment my heart hardened with the resolve for vengeance. A month swiftly passed, and the day I had been dreading yet longing for finally arrived. As I busied myself with the movers, meticulously packing up years of memories into boxes, fate saw fit to bring her directly into my path. Her return from a night of revelry timed perfectly with my departure. She cast a glance at the mountains of boxes and suitcases, her smirk laden with a satisfaction that made my skin crawl.
At last, you're leaving. I can't wait to have the place to myself.
With a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes, I shot back.
Yes, perhaps now you'll find it easier to start anew without an inconvenient old lady muddying the waters.
Her momentary look of shock was priceless, a fleeting crack in her facade, before she retorted with poorly veiled irritation.
My personal life is none of your business. I am free to do as I please.
Her back turning to me as she stormed off, leaving a trail of cold air in her wake.
Absolutely, it seems we've become nothing more than strangers to each other. That's precisely why I've made the decision to put the house on the market,
I stated, my voice steady, revealing a decision that would irrevocably change the course of our lives. Jessica's reaction was one of utter disbelief, her eyes blinking rapidly as if trying to process a language she had never heard before.
Your inability to comprehend even the simplest of facts is truly beyond me,
I remarked, my tone laced with a mixture of amusement and disdain. To her, my words must have sounded like venom, for she took a step back, as if my verbal jab had manifested physically. I decided it was time to lay all the cards on the table, to enlighten her on a detail she had so conveniently overlooked.
Has it never occurred to you that James's will made no mention of this house belonging to him?
Her eyes darted around, a clear sign of her crumbling facade as she scrambled for a response, suggesting that such matters should automatically be resolved in favor of the spouse. Her naivety was astonishing.
Do you actually believe that? Without going through the formalities of inheritance, such assumptions hold no ground. This house was mine long before James entered the picture,
I clarified, my patience wearing thin.
That's news to me. James never mentioned anything of the sort.
She protested, her voice tinged with desperation and disbelief.
Perhaps he did, but you were probably too preoccupied to listen.
I retorted, my gaze fixed on her, watching as the realization began to dawn on her. She trembled, the weight of her oversight becoming apparent.
Thinking James could afford this house at that time is laughable. Were you truly oblivious to the financial impossibilities given his circumstances?
At that time, James was just starting his venture, far from being in a position to secure a mortgage. It was I who made the purchase, tapping into the nest egg my husband and I had saved for our golden years, thinking it wise to invest in a tangible asset that James could inherit. Jessica's veneer of confidence shattered, replaced by a palpable sense of panic.
What are we supposed to do now? Where are we supposed to live?
She stammered, the reality of her precarious situation finally hitting home.
I believed you had mentioned having another place to stay.
Her voice now a whisper, hinting at the promises made by her new partner.
I'm afraid that's no concern of mine.
I replied, my tone devoid of empathy, ready to close this chapter of my life.
Come on, Liam, we're leaving.
I called out to him. In that moment, Liam, burdened with a considerable load, descended from the second floor, deliberately overlooking his mother, Jessica, and opting to side with me. This deliberate choice seemed to ignite a storm of emotions in Jessica, whose complexion morphed into a troubling shade of pale, a visible manifestation of her inner turmoil.
Liam? Weren't you supposed to be with your mom?
She questioned, her voice a mix of surprise and distress, revealing her shaken state. Despite her plea, Liam continued his determined stride towards the moving truck, treating her words as if they were mere whispers lost in the wind, showing a resolve that seemed unbreakable. Jessica, driven by a mix of desperation and maternal instinct, chased after him. Clinging to his youthful frame, she whispered into his ear with urgency.
Don't listen to your grandmother. She is lying to you.
It was a scene charged with tension, as Liam paused momentarily to look back at his mother with a gaze that was chillingly detached.
You're the one who's lying,
he retorted, his words cutting through the silence with a sharpness that seemed to resonate in the air, leaving an indelible mark on the moment. Jessica's reaction was visceral. She collapsed to her knees, embodying the image of defeat and despair, her spirit seemingly broken by his accusation. In the window of opportunity that followed, Liam and I seized the moment to board the truck, urging the driver to put distance between us and the unfolding emotional drama. As the engine sprang to life, heralding the start of a new journey, Jessica, reinvigorated by a sudden burst of energy, ran towards us, her face contorted in an expression of raw anguish and determination. She screamed for us to stop, but Liam and I remained steadfast, our gaze fixed firmly ahead, our hearts buoyed by the prospect of a new beginning at my eldest daughter's welcoming home. This decision to move was the culmination of a period of reflection and emotional turmoil. After my husband's passing, my daughter had offered her home to us, a sanctuary filled with love and the promise of companionship. Initially, my pride and a deep-seated desire for independence had led me to decline her heartfelt offer. However, as the years passed and loneliness crept in, my perspective shifted, leading me to value the warmth of family connections over solitary pride. Thus, with Liam by my side, I embarked on this poignant journey to a home that had been lovingly prepared for us. The renovation and expansion of my daughter's house were made possible by the sale of my previous home, a testament to the sacrifices we were willing to make for the sake of family unity. Jessica had once been told by her second husband that he didn't want children, leading her to surprisingly give up her custody rights without much fight. The harshness of her situation only escalated when her husband disdainfully told her,
I have no use for a woman without a home of her own.
effectively ending their relationship and leaving her with nothing but broken dreams and a shattered heart. In the years that followed, Jessica's life took a turn for the worse, leading her down a path of sorrow and struggle. Meanwhile, her son Liam, unaware of the depth of his mother's suffering, pursued his passion for culinary arts. He immersed himself in the world of flavors and textures, finding solace and purpose in the kitchen of a culinary school. His dedication was unwavering, driven by a desire to honor his late father's legacy as a renowned chef. But it was on this day that Jessica, bearing the scars of her past, made a desperate attempt to reconnect with her son. She appeared at the school, her appearance a stark contrast to the vibrant woman she once was, with hope flickering in her eyes as she approached Liam.
Liam, it's Mom. I've missed you so much.
She uttered, a plea for recognition and reconciliation. Yet, the reunion she longed for was not to be. Liam, taken aback by the woman before him, responded with a detachment born of years of separation and misunderstanding.
Excuse me, who are you? I'm calling the police,
He said, masking his turmoil with a veneer of calm. This moment of rejection was a crushing blow to Jessica, who was escorted away by security, her hopes of rekindling their bond dashed, leaving her to vanish into the obscurity of her troubled life. As Liam stepped into his father's shoes, taking up the mantle at the family's esteemed restaurant, he did so with a resolve to surpass his father's culinary achievements. His journey was not just about creating exquisite dishes. It was a quest for personal redemption and a tribute to the father he revered. Despite the shadows of his family's past, Liam remained a beacon of hope and ambition, his grandmother's unwavering support fueling his aspirations.
I want you to live a long and happy life, Grandma. I promise to create dishes that will bring joy to your heart, surpassing even what Dad could have imagined.
Believing in Liam's words, I vow to live long and continue to lead a happy life, mindful of my health every day.